Welcome back to Beyond the Margins, Inside the Mind Shaping Modern Finance. I'm your host, Cherise Arnason, and today we have a special guest, David Mosberg, founder and CEO of Triumvir Financial, a firm specializing in accounting, cash strategy, and growth advisory for small and mid-sized businesses. Over his 25-year career, David has helped firms move from reactive bookkeeping into forward-looking, profitable operations. In this episode, we'll dig into operational strategies, industry changes, and growth lessons straight from the trenches. David, welcome to the show.
Howdy. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us today. All right. Tell us a bit about your journey. How did you come to start Triumvir Financial, and what was the initial mission or gap that you saw?
Yeah, for sure. So I was in the hospitality business for the first 30 years of my career, and I absolutely loved it. But I did have a unique background in that I was working on the creative side of hospitality, started as a chef, and just absolutely loved that. But I also went to school for accounting and business. And so having that mix was unique at the time. And as I was coming up, technology was also coming up with me. And I was able to add some value based on some of the additional educational background that I had. And I found that I liked both sides of that. I really liked the blend of the technical skill mixed with the financial backbone. And so it worked out really well. My career advanced quite a bit. And then move forward 25, 30 years, and I was introduced to an opportunity to be able to break out on my own, and took that opportunity and realized how transferable the traits of accounting and finance are, as well as just good business knowledge. And we started a firm.
That's exciting. So how long have you had Triumvir Financial?
Triumvir Financial is just shy of a decade now. And we've had just a amazing, great growth over that 10 years, and have had just we've had an opportunity to serve so many different businesses and so many different families that way. We just absolutely love it.
Wonderful. How would you define the value you bring to clients beyond just bookkeeping or tax prep?
That's a great question, because we really kind of say our value is our unique selling proposition. And what makes us different is that we focus on helping families to build a financial legacy through their companies. And we don't just focus on the business, but really the overlying purpose of what they're trying to accomplish financially through the business as part of the tools of their regimen of financial planning for the future.
It's wonderful. So in your experience then, what are the biggest challenges mid and small size businesses face today when it comes to its financial operations and strategy?
I think if I was to ask the average small to mid-sized business owner what the biggest challenge is, I think it's time and focus. And so when we start to unravel what the actual goals are, it's easier for us with good accounting practices to be able to create a scale plan, which helps them to truly understand the outcomes as they're coming and minimize the learning curve. And so I think, the time and the resources and all those kind of things can get consolidated when you do utilize a service like ours and many others who serve like we do out in the marketplace. Instead of trying to bring on a team of people that you may or may not be able to afford at the time, or who may have one thing to bring to the table, not an array of things to bring to the table from an experiential perspective, to really be able to help people to move forward on whatever it is they're trying to accomplish.
Absolutely. So then how has the accounting and advisory industry changed over the past 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I think, technology is a big part of that change, and what we'll call automations and AI and things like that coming in. And so the human factor has really shifted from a doer of tasks to an advisory role. And I think that the better accountants are realizing that as has been coined, the firm of the future is a value-based proposition, not necessarily an hourly task-based proposition. And I think if you're really going to move into the future as an accounting firm or a business advisory firm or any of it, you need to mix many of these things together. And you also need to have really good checks and balance systems in place for the AIs and automations, because they're not always working very well. AI is always learning just like we are, but a lot of times they can't differentiate between two different things because they just don't understand it yet. And so oftentimes AI makes mistakes, and we need to be prepared to be checking and balancing, not just allowing the AI to do work and just basing all of our decisions on the work that was done. And so as we build a full package, the firm of the future truly starts with a check and balance system so the quality of the accounting is done well, and now we have a good scorecard that will then help business owners make good decisions. Another component is really important, I believe, is that we need to speak the language of the person who we're talking to. I always felt like when I was growing up in business, going to the accountant's office, like going to the principal's office, they were going to tell me all the things I did wrong, but not give me any answers or solutions on how to fix my problem. The other weird assumption was that I was natured to do those things. And the reality is, accountants need to understand what their clients are going to do and what they're not going to do or not prioritize, so that we can fill those voids for them by providing great services, not just in the quality and accuracy of accounting, but in filling those gaps for the business owners.
Hmm. And I know you've publicly written about moving from an hourly billing to value based pricing. What was behind the change and what roadblocks have you encountered?
So I love that because we actually started that way. We never did hourly billing. And when I decided I was going to open a firm, I got the chance to meet with six CPAs, and three of them I knew, and three of them were just kind enough from LinkedIn connections or friends to sit and have a cup of coffee with me. I was extremely transparent with them. I told them what I was doing. And, as in the world of accounting, there's not enough of us out
Hmm.
there. So no one is feeling threatened by an accountant opening up. And so I asked them for what their biggest challenges were. And the number one thing that I got from them was getting quality data from their clients. And I said, well, why don't you, just do all the work for your clients, do the bookkeeping and stuff. And of course, accounting firms are like, well, we don't like dealing with clients that often. We have deadlines to meet and all that. So I was like, okay. The other funny thing was they said they spend 2 to 3 days a month preparing bills for their clients, and then 2 to 3 weeks a month arguing with their clients over the bills. And so I said, well, why are you doing that? The industry bills hourly and nobody values our hours and all those kind of things. And I said, well, why don't you bill on a monthly retainer base or just a flat rate? And they said, well, scope creep. And they gave me all these reasons why it would never work. And I decided up front, I'm going to start my firm that way. And so yes, absolutely. To your question of roadblocks and hurdles, every once in a while we just undercharge someone and the job was bigger than we anticipated. But I'm a very transparent person. If it truly is that way, I don't have any problem going to the client and explaining and showing them what I'm doing, because then I justify the value before asking for a change in income. And every once in a while, we go through every 6 months and we evaluate the workload we have for our clients. Oftentimes, we'll actually reduce the fees for our clients because the work has become very simple and synergistic. We have very few questions. We don't need a whole lot of interaction, and they're moving on a positive trajectory. They're easy to deal with and get data from. And so we can reduce their rates, which I've not gotten off of one of those calls where we called someone to tell them we were going to reduce the rate where they weren't happy about it. So,
Right.
it worked out great. So, to be honest with you, I think everybody should be looking at that. I do understand, like in audit and other things, there's some needs for hourly billing, but if you're going to become a firm of the future, I really believe that going to a retainer base. The other thing is, for me, I can do what an average accounting firm in the United States does in annual revenue with 10% of the client base because I'm working with them year round. I don't sweat deadlines because I'm working with them year round. I can gather data throughout the year instead of all in a ridiculously concentrated period of time. And our operation in general is just much smoother because we're not in those peaks and valleys of both revenue and workload.
Right. And being able to manage your employees, your team's stress levels, then it's going to be so much easier when you're working with the
Absolutely.
client all throughout the
Yeah.
year. That's
And we have
wonderful.
great staff retention because we're not burning them out.
Hmm.
You
Yep,
know,
that tax time is rough for
it is.
accountants. Yep. Yeah. Where do
And it
you
doesn't
see the
have to
great
be. It doesn't
No,
have to be.
right? And you've proven that in your system. I like it. Where do you see the greatest opportunity for firms like yours to differentiate or add more strategic value for clients?
I think the first thing is working on their communication skills. As you and I could probably both laugh at, coming from the same industry, accountants don't tend to be the best communicators. And one of the problems that we all face as owners or CEOs of our own companies or our own firms is that we think we have to do everything. And one of my best moves was hiring a tax coordinator. And our tax coordinator is a great communicator. And by the way, they love reaching out to clients and gathering data, and they don't mind redundant work, and they're built to do that. So instead of accountants being the ones doing that, unless you're truly skilled at that, bring in people to fill your voids on communication with your clients. It adds value, it takes away stress points, and it actually gives you the opportunity to earn the most peak money that you're going to earn doing the skilled labor, and allowing someone at a much lower cost to be able to do the things that they're willing to do and love to do for a much lower price.
It's very wise to bring in somebody who fits that personality to be connecting with the clients all the time.
Yeah, for sure.
So right now then, what's going really well at Triumvir?
I would just say growth has been fantastic. We've never marketed. 100% of our client base is referrals. And the larger we grow, the more referrals we get because we have a bigger base. And so retention and client acquisition has been a really fun part to be watching. And we're continuously incorporating new systems to be able to do better with less. Because of the tools and technologies that have been updating. So some technology shifts and being able to go to conferences like the QuickBooks conference coming up and some of those things where we can meet other technologies and get to see trends in the marketplace ourselves. So we don't just get stuck in one system, but we're consistently evolving our ability to be able to perform at the most efficient level for our clients.
Absolutely. What's working then in your operations or client relationships that you'd want to get more of?
That's like asking for more time, you know? I mean, I wish I could talk to I love what we do. We get to serve families, we get to make an impact. We love the ability to listen to clients say, not only did we help them financially, but we gave them peace of mind. It's, making money is one thing, de-stressing is another. And we can help people live a better life because they're not all freaked out about their financial situation and because they know that it's being taken care of. I wish we could do more of that.
So do you mainly service the businesses in your local area, or have you expanded outside of?
We've always been nationwide, and so we have clients from California, New York, all over the country. I would definitely say a big majority of our clients come from here simply because a lot of our referrals are actually from people we don't work with, but who know what we do. And so, people from church, people from places that we frequent, that they get to know you and they know what you do. And so we get referrals that way. And so we do have probably about 80% of our client base in our backyard.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
Which in which internal or external metrics are you most focused on improving right now? Is that profit margins or client growth or revenue per client?
Sure. We are a growth-based company. Growth over time and our speed of growth is definitely two of the KPIs that we're after on a regular basis. Although, we're in a service-based business, so revenue to profit margins are pretty consistently good. The model that I've created from the beginning is still a model that we follow today as far as what percentage of revenue per client goes to bookkeeping, accounting, and tax and advisory. And so, plus profit, all those things. We've been able to really match that model, which for us has been great. And so we kind of built in KPI and not a whole lot has changed from the beginning, which is very fortunate because listening to others and the challenges they had helped us to build and I mentioned minimizing the learning curve earlier on what a firm could look like and be as profitable as it can be so that we could build into the future as easy as that can be. The number one challenge doing that is human resources, finding quality people. We are 100% in-house firm. All of our employees come to work. And so as we do that, it's great because we love the collaboration. But even from the time of COVID to today, which is getting longer and longer from the time it started, there's still a
Yes.
lot of people who are looking for remote work. And our environment requires them to work in the office. And so because of that, that becomes one of our challenges in growth.
So now I'm hearing from others in the industry that have outsourced to other um, uh, countries or just other companies. Um,
Mhm.
And I've heard from some that think that that's going to go away with the integration of AI, that a lot of those things that they're able to outsource, they'll be able to just pass on to AI. Is that something that you're hearing among your contacts in the industry as well?
Yeah, I definitely hear a lot of that, and we definitely use AI. I mean, AI is built into so many of the platforms. We're exclusively for bookkeeping on QuickBooks Online. We don't use it for tax or other features, but and of course it's continuously working on its AI tools and things. We just find so many inaccuracies in it that I don't know a reasonable timeline after which it'll take over. There's also very, the biggest challenge with AI as I see it is that it's like me going to a mechanic shop. Number one, I'm not very mechanical. Number two, I'm trying to make the sound that my mechanical vehicle is making to describe the problem I'm having with my car to a person who has no clue what I'm trying to tell them. And that's how AI works. So if I, the business owner, who's a chef or a plumber or a doctor, am trying to ask the AI tool to give me a result from a financial performance perspective, and I don't ask the question well, I'm not going to get a good answer. And so I do believe that although AI will minimize the workload from a day-to-day accounting perspective, I think it's going to really struggle to replace the accountant or the industry simply because there are things that need to be explained in a way and translated in a way that I just don't foresee being able to do in the near-term future at least.
Mhm. Absolutely. And keeping that personal touch is so important, especially with business owners, because they need to know there's actually a face there,
Yeah, for
behind
sure.
the advice that they can rely on. So, absolutely. Where do you want Triumvir to be in the next 6 to 12 months? What scale, service offerings, or client mix do you aspire to implement?
Yeah, we don't actually plan on adding any services at this point, although I do believe that we would like to grow in the next 6 to 12 months by about 75%, because we've increased our capacity to be able to do that with some new technologies we've brought in, as well as fortunately, as the economy shifts and inflation goes up, a lot more people are willing to come back to work in the office, and a lot more people are becoming more available. We are we're in a city, a large city, where oil and gas is up and down, real estate's fluctuating a little bit, and people are getting laid off or looking for work for stable environments. And the accounting field, if it's run well, has been stable since it started. And so people need us and need our advice and need the services that we provide. And so fortunately, someone can leave a corporate job in accounting where you're just another, one of the many people working in that environment and coming to an environment like ours with a different level of stability.
Have you noticed then that there is an increase in people that are coming back to work since COVID?
Um, we see that with guys like Elon mandating everybody show back up to work by Monday or they're fired, whatever it is. But we are seeing a lot more companies get to the realization that there is a time and place for work at home. But it eliminates the camaraderie and the ability for collaboration and the ability for quick meetings and quick return of responses versus having to, get the right timing and make sure somebody's available and maybe wearing pants while they're on a Zoom, whatever it is. But I think from a professionalism perspective, the ability to collaborate, I mean, it was the United States Surgeon General just a few years ago recognized that a new epidemic for the United States and probably for the entire world is loneliness. And I find
Mm.
that employees in the office have camaraderie. They have fun. We do birthday lunches. We celebrate. We talk to each other at the water cooler. And I think without that, you lose some level of productivity. Can someone at home do their work in half the time? Maybe. I don't know, but if they're not really feeling the culture of the company, it's very difficult to make them extremely productive. So I really do see that more people are looking for that as well, not just looking for the reality that they don't have their job remote that they used to have, and now they need one that's whatever they can get. We have a lot of people who have said when we tell people in the interview process, I mean, we tell them in the posting, not everybody reads every detail of the posting, but when we get them to the first stage of interviewing, we let them know that we're 100% in office and make sure that that's an early question. Because if it's not going to work for them, then we don't want to waste their time. And so when we get
Hmm.
to that stage, so many people are telling us today, I really miss being in an office. I really miss coming to work. I miss getting dressed and, feeling good and, doing all those things. So, I think we're going to find that there's and there was a cyclical shift to that back in the 80s and 90s, and then it went back to all in office. So I think that there's a lot to be said for in office and maybe some flex scheduling. Yeah, we're definitely seeing a trend where people are not just doing it because they have to, but doing it because they miss it.
Hmm. And that's wonderful when they feel that they want to be connected to the rest of their team. There's going to be those values, um, more
And they also know what's
understanding.
going on. There was a
Hmm.
weird feeling of ambiguity, I think, when during COVID, when people weren't around, an employee's talking to another employee and finding out some information that was just being had on a call that wasn't necessarily a team meeting. And then they're like, well, why didn't I know about that? And so, and they feel disconnected not only from just a general human perspective, but from a trust factor because they were left out of a conversation because they weren't in the office. And
Right.
so, I found that there was a lot of different issues that were created by a lack of continuity and togetherness.
Now, you touched a bit on technologies that you've implemented. Would you be able to share some of those and your wins with them?
For sure. So one of our newest technologies to help us manage the firm as a whole is Financial Sense. Spelled CENTS. And so that's the newest technology that we brought in, and it's a relatively holistic technology to help run task management designed around an accounting firm. And so it's already got some built-in templates and got some cool things there, but it also has a lot of flexibility for us to build our own templates for the way we do business versus another firm. And so that's been a huge success for us. And again, an administrator who may or may not have an accounting background can hold the team accountable to things that need to get done and create checks and balances, whether they understand the science of accounting or not. And by the way, administrative people like doing those kind of things
Yeah.
versus an accountant who's like, oh, just going down the list, going down the list. They're not paying attention to
Yeah.
certain things they may need to get back to or feeling stressed. It gives us the ability to really manage our workflow in a way that is extremely productive, putting the right people in the right place to do that.
Wonderful. If you could wave a magic wand and solve one major challenge in your business today, what would that be?
Hmm. In my business today, I would say that it is the human resource piece. I think it's, finding the right people, acquiring talent quickly when time is right, and bringing people in who have the same values is probably the biggest challenge that we have. And based on my conversations with many others in the marketplace, accounting industry and others, it seems to be one of the biggest challenges today.
Mhm. Before we wrap up, what would be one piece of advice you would give to finance or accounting firm leaders, or even to business owners trying to build more strategic finance functions into their company?
Yeah. I would say the first thing is listen to your clients and don't listen to them for what you already know. Listen to them for what you can help them to know. And so many of us go in with a thought process on how we're going to do things without paying attention to what the client actually wants. And so I think the more we can listen to our clients, the more we'll be able to bring in systems, tools, and offerings that are extremely valuable and relevant to what the client's needs are. Too many people go into accounting and finance because it's a compliance need, not because we're going to serve a client well. And so I think that number one, I can manage a lot less relationships with a much higher value when I do that, but also because I enjoy it. I like helping people. And when they show me the results, like I mentioned earlier, our biggest value proposition is de-stressing someone, not providing them with quality books that will meet a tax regulation and all those things. I don't want to say they don't care about that, but they don't understand it to value it. Just like me not understanding the mechanical side of my vehicle. And so, yes, I need someone to fix it. I don't know what it's worth to fix it or the amount of time that it would take to learn it, or if it's just really simple and they could do it with, no time and they're taking advantage of it. I just don't know. And so the more we can pay attention and really solve the problems that our clients are expressing to us, then the firm can grow exponentially, managing much fewer relationships at a much higher value.
That's wonderful. I know from coming from a perspective of a business owner in the trades, I know that being able to just hand it over to somebody and rely on them to take care of it and have that confidence is a huge stress reducer. So that
And I
provides
love
great
that for
value.
myself. I love having people who can handle things for me as well. And,
Hmm.
when I'm treated really well, whether it be at a nice restaurant or my mechanic, just knowing that they've got my back in the area that I'm not the most confident in makes me feel really good. I got a guy for that,
Absolutely.
you know?
Perfect. Yeah. Well, if our listeners are wanting to reach out to you, David, and connect, how best can they do that?
LinkedIn's probably one of the best ways to do that. Cherise, I'm not sure if you're able to just post a link or you could put it
I will.
in the base there where people can connect with me
Sure.
on LinkedIn. They can also reach me at my email, which is david@triumvirfinancial.com, which you can also post because it's difficult to spell. So, um,
Amazing. I'll definitely do that. Well, thank you so much, David. I appreciate you coming on today and sharing some insights from your business experience and how you've grown and been successful.
yeah, thank you so much, Cherise. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. If you've enjoyed this insightful conversation today with David, please remember to subscribe to Beyond the Margins and share this episode with someone who could benefit from these strategies.